it's Khaki. Today I'd like to talk to you about a topic that spans across a lot of chronic conditions, but today we're going to talk about it as it pertains to obesity, the work of maintenance. And it is work, so let's talk about it. I got the idea to make this video from a patient, an interaction with a patient that happened a few days ago. I went in with this patient and we had done lab work and checked, among other things, her A1C, which is a 3-month marker of your average blood sugar. This is the tool that we use to diagnose diabetes and also to determine how well controlled your diabetes is. I was going in and I was talking to her and I said, "Great news. Your A1C is 5.8. That is wonderful. Your diabetes is very well controlled with your medication." And she looked at me and said, "I'm not a diabetic anymore." And I said, yes, you are. And her response to me was, well, she's an educated patient on her labs. She said, well, diabetes is considered 6.5 or greater on an A1C, and you said mine was below that, so I'm not a diabetic anymore. And I took a deep breath, and I explained to her, yes, you're a diabetic. You're always going to be a diabetic. You are in remission due to the medication that you take. That remission is what we're fighting to maintain. And the reality is, if you change your behaviors, if you go back to those old habits, or we stop your medication, that underlying diabetes that is in a drug-induced remission is no longer going to be in remission. She was very upset about that. She really thought that she was no longer a diabetic because she was in remission. So I want to talk about how that pertains to those of us in the weight loss bariatric surgery community and share some of my recent experiences. I am at what I set for myself as a goal weight. I give myself a 5-pound range. I weigh once a week to ensure that I stay in remission. I continue to log my food intake, which I've talked a lot about that in the past, how important that is to me. I do recommend that, but I know some people, it's just not something that they can do, or it brings up behaviors that maybe they can't tolerate. But to me, that weekly weigh-in lets me monitor my remission. So a couple of weeks ago, as I said, I have a 5-pound grace that I give myself. A couple of weeks ago, I was up a couple of pounds and didn't think anything about it. That's why we give ourselves a 5-pound range. A weight gain can be caused by diet. It can also be caused by fluid intake. It can be caused by our bathroom habits. There's a lot of things. I'm doing a little bit more strength training than I have been. That can actually cause an inflammatory response, which can lead to water retention. I was up that 2 pounds. Didn't change anything. I weighed in last week. I was up 3 pounds. So I was at my 5-pound top end. I took a step back. Honestly, a little bit of anxiety started. I think that those of us who have reached remission are terrified of weight gain. We have always, I know I have, I've been successful with weight loss in the past, but I've always gained it back. So I am terrified of that happening. And when I saw that number on the scale, I took a step back and I said, okay, what have I done differently? I pulled out my journal, my online app. I use Lose It. I've talked about that in the past. I pulled it out and I looked at the past month. What had changed? One thing that had changed, my carb intake had gone up a little bit. I remember my bariatric dietitian telling me, if you see yourself gaining, pull back on carbs. If you see yourself losing below where you want to be, add in carbs. Within the Lose It app, there are settings that you can set your journey to maintain or to lose. And it tweaks your suggested intake based on what your settings are. I changed mine to lose and went back to my original goal. And that updated the suggestions for calories, for proteins, for all the macros. The next week, I went by what that Lose It app said. I was very mindful of my carb intake. Now, having said that, I didn't go low carb. I still ate fruits. I still ate whole grains. I still ate some brown rice. A little bit of popcorn, which I've started enjoying at night. I did not cut that out, but I was mindful of that and did back up a little bit. So when I stepped on the scale this morning, I was down, I think, 2.5 pounds. I feel like my obesity is back in remission. I'm back where I want to be. It's much easier to get on top of a problem in the beginning than it is to let that 5 pounds that I allow myself. It's much easier when I hit that 5 pound mark to take a step back, to do some tweaking, than it would be 20 pounds down the road. That requires a lot more effort. That is the work of maintenance. The work of maintenance is not changing anything. The work of maintenance is awareness. It is knowing what you're doing, and when you see that maintenance, that remission is beginning to slide away, go back, look and see what might have changed, and tighten up on it. We're always, folks, I had somebody tell me one time, I don't want to have to think about my weight anymore. I don't want to have to struggle anymore. I don't want to even, I'm mad because I always have to be aware of that. That's life, guys. Obesity is what we have. Whether we are at goal or whether we're 200, 300 pounds above where we want to be, we are always going to have that underlying disease of obesity. It's just the way it is. And we are empowered by the tool, by our surgery, to get into a state of remission. And up here, and what you do is how you work to stay there. I would love to hear from everybody. What are your strategies for remission? Do you allow yourself a weight range? If you've gotten to goal, what are your triggers to take a step back and look and say, maybe I need to tweak some things? How do you feel about getting to remission, getting to maintenance if you're not there yet? Do you have some fear about maintaining it? Also, I would love to hear any video suggestions. As I said, this video was inspired by a conversation with a patient. but I want to talk about what you want to hear about. I would love to hear from everybody, and let me tell you, I hope everybody has a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday. Bye.